You know, I'm sorry that that this deal trades away the best negotiating power the authorities have, which is that the banks were caught dead to rights committing widespread crimes in the robo-signing scandal. And, you know, in an ideal world, they would use that, we would use that on behalf of the American people to sweat these guys and get them for everything we can. That didn't happen. That's a big disappointment. And
big news for homeowners and their mortgages. Today, the Justice Department announced that 5 of America's biggest banks will be forced to pay a record penalty, $26 billion, for their role in the mortgage mess. They will also have to help a lot more homeowners renegotiate better mortgage terms. So tonight, millions of American families are asking this: what does it mean for us? How much? How soon?
The U.S. Commodity Futures Trading Commission is having roundtable talks. They went on today, they'll go on tomorrow, to talk about how to protect customer money in the aftermath of the MF Global collapse. You know, remember the 8th largest bankruptcy in the U.S., where they are still looking for a reported $1.6 billion in missing customer money.
Government so far should just stay out based on it's not illegal to call your client a Muppet. It's not illegal to call your client a Muppet. It's not illegal to call your client a Muppet. It's not illegal to call your client a Muppet. It's not illegal to call your client a Muppet.
The settlement we've reached today, thanks to the work of some of the folks who are on this stage, is the largest joint federal-state settlement in our nation's history, is the result of that extraordinary cooperation. Under the terms of this settlement, America's biggest banks, banks that were rescued by taxpayer dollars, will be required to right these wrongs. And that means more than just paying a fee. These banks will put billions of dollars towards relief for families across the nation.
May 11, 2012, J.P. Morgan Chase, the biggest U.S. bank, has revealed a surprise trading loss of at least $2 billion on complex investments made by its traders. The chief executive warned that things may still get worse and could cost the bank an additional $1 billion in losses.
I think that right now the question is, do we all work for central bankers? That's what I want to address to our guest tonight. Is this global governance at last? Is it one world, the central bankers in charge? Is this global governance at last? Is it one world, the central bankers in charge?
And that this massive ripoff has been going on for decades. As one financial insider admitted to The Economist, 15 years ago, the word was that Libor was being rigged.
So what you need to know is that this Audit the Fed bill is one of the few bipartisan efforts to pass the House of Representatives in years. 89 Democrats signed on with Republicans to support the bill.
I don't think there's anyone who has escaped the massive amounts of abuse and fraud that were done up and down the chain in the housing market.
You know, one of your pet peeves is, and mine too, is the total lack of prosecution. The latest to get a big giant pass out of the Justice Department, Goldman Sachs, everybody rigged the mortgage market. I mean, they sold liar loans, they packaged liar loans into securities, they rated them AAA when they were toxic, and when it all blew up, they committed a perjury and forgery, and nobody is going to jail. What do you make of this?
Well, no elites are going to jail. Some regular homeowner types who got caught up, who may be, guilty and may not be guilty, are going to jail. But you're quite right. Nobody in Wall Street that had any major role in causing the crisis through fraud is even being indicted.
Absolutely. It was Wall Street's fault.
It was Wall Street's fault, and Wall Street drove it through not simply misconduct, but outright fraud, hyperinflated the bubble, and caused the financial crisis that caused this Great Recession. And they're able to do it now with impunity.
Let me just be candid. My party is full of racists, and the real reason a considerable portion of my party wants President Obama out of the White House has nothing to do with the content of his character, nothing to do with his competence as commander-in-chief and president, and everything to do with the color of his skin.
You say that, of course, the wealthiest people pay the largest share, but don't they also pay at a lower rate when you figure in capital gains and all of that?
Take away the tax shelters that are uniquely enjoyed by people in the top tax brackets, so they can't shelter as much money from taxation.
We followed the Romney Trail of Wealth to the Cayman Islands in the Caribbean, where he has millions of dollars of his personal wealth in corporations set up here. Listed under his investments are at least 12 separate funds with potentially as much as $30 million that we were able to track back to the island.
Everybody's going to be talking about Switzerland and the Cayman Islands and Bermuda.
The fact that he's got assets hidden in the Cayman Islands and Europe. I mean, people are just looking at that, and I think you see his favorables dropping in the polls.
I've never known of a Swiss bank account to build an American bridge.
Lower tax rates for everybody to make America more competitive.
The people who are responsible, Hillary Clinton is responsible for the State Department. She has ministerial responsibility for what goes on in the State Department. This consulate seems more and more to represent a CIA post. In this case, the guy that you haven't heard of, General David Petraeus, becomes the obvious person who needs to resign. Either one or the other. It's either Petraeus or Hillary or both or a mixture of the two. Yes, both should resign.
Why does it make sense for the country to force tax increases on all Americans because a small group of Republicans want to extend tax rates for 2% of Americans? Why does that make any sense? There's no reason why that should happen.
There have been many periods with much higher tax rates. It's never made a dicky bird's difference.
Well, let's go on to HSBC. The banking giant has escaped indictment for laundering billions of dollars for Mexican drug cartels and groups linked to al-Qaeda. The bank reportedly supplied $1 billion to a firm whose founder had ties to al-Qaeda and shipped billions in cash from Mexico to the United States, despite warnings the money was coming from drug cartels. Earlier this year, in a Senate investigation, concluded that HSBC provided a, quote, gateway for terrorists to gain access to U.S. dollars and the U.S. financial system. Despite evidence of wrongdoing, the Justice Department has allowed the bank to avoid prosecution and pay a $1.9 billion fine. No top HSBC officials will face charges. While it's reportedly the largest penalty ever paid by a bank, the deal has come under wide criticism.
Matt, you have said, as the headline I just quoted said, we should be outraged, screaming, going nuts over this. This is the mega scandal of mega scandals. Why, and why are you so outraged?
Well, I mean, Libor is like the sun at the center of the financial universe. I mean, if they're monkeying around with Libor, I talked to one friend who works on Wall Street. He said this is like finding out that the whole world is built on quicksand, because Libor is in everything. It's in mortgages, it's in credit cards, it's in all kinds of investments that are tied up with municipalities and communities. So if they play with this rate, it affects everything in the world, basically.
Remember, jobs come first.
When it comes to protecting the rich, Wall Street, the bankers, Maria Bartiromo has no equal.
Is to get the rates from the higher income tax.
That's all you want to do. That's it. It's your way or the highway. Raise the rates on the rich. No other way. Your way or the highway.
Senator,
that's it. That's where we are.
Next time,
Senator,
next time, let me answer the questions.
Here we are with 11 days left in the year. They've had 13 months to do this, and now we're all spent. Come on.
Well, I mean, look, the
Traitors
people
on the floor have been watching the show. That's all I'm going to say.
Maria Bartiromo is known as the money honey.
10, 9, 8, 7,